What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and make sure to share it, because what we're about to dive into is pure political drama, South African style. Jacob Zuma, the former president who refuses to exit the stage quietly, has just suffered another crushing blow in his relentless legal war against Cyril Ramaphosa. This time, the fight was over something seemingly procedural, Senzo Mchunu's special leave, but beneath the surface, it was a high-stakes battle that exposed the deep, festering cracks in South Africa's political landscape. Let's take it back a few steps. For months now, Zuma has been waging a full-scale legal offensive, targeting Ramaphosa from every angle. What started as a broader campaign against the judiciary and constitutional structures has now narrowed down into a series of precision strikes, one of which was this recent attempt to challenge the legality of Senzo Mchunu's leave of absence. Zuma and his legal team argued that Ramaphosa's decision to grant leave to Minister Mchunu was unconstitutional, irregular, and indicative of a president who is misusing executive powers for personal or political protection. But here's the thing. Beneath the legal jargon and the procedural motions lies a much deeper story. This case was never just about Senzo Mchunu. It was about weakening Ramaphosa. It was about testing the limits of presidential power. And it was about feeding a political narrative that Zuma has been hammering home for years, that Ramaphosa is part of a larger conspiracy to sideline and destroy him. But once again, the courts have dismissed Zuma's arguments, shutting down his case and, in the process, reinforcing the perception that his legal tactics are beginning to run out of steam. The ruling was clear: there was no evidence that the president acted unlawfully in placing Mchunu on special leave. The court emphasized that executive authority includes the discretion to assign or relieve duties temporarily, especially in matters of governance and accountability. But Zuma's camp didn't take this lying down. His spokesperson came out swinging, declaring that the judgment was yet another sign of judicial bias and political interference. According to them, the courts are no longer neutral referees but have become active players in a game that's rigged against Zuma and his allies. Now, whether you buy into that narrative or not, there's no denying that Zuma has become the symbol of resistance for a large and growing faction within the ANC, and even beyond it. Every legal defeat he suffers is rebranded by his supporters as proof of a system that fears him. And every failed motion becomes another brick in the wall of his populist persona. To his base, Jacob Zuma isn't losing, he's fighting. And that, for many, is all that matters. But here's where it gets interesting. Political analysts are beginning to ask the tough questions: is Zuma's legal campaign still strategic, or is it becoming self-destructive? By constantly taking Ramaphosa to court over increasingly minor or obscure issues, is he diluting the impact of his cause? Or is the real goal no longer victory in court, but victory in the court of public opinion? Because make no mistake, Zuma understands power. He knows the real battle is not only fought in the courtroom but in the hearts and minds of disillusioned South Africans who feel betrayed by the promises of the democratic transition. Meanwhile, Ramaphosa is doing his best to appear unbothered, projecting calm and staying focused on the GNU, the economy, and post-election negotiations. But those close to the president admit that Zuma's constant legal noise is a distraction, and potentially a dangerous one. It fuels division within the ANC, it emboldens radical elements, and it keeps the country trapped in a cycle of legal melodrama instead of focusing on delivery and reform. The failed attempt to drag Ramaphosa into yet another court fight is also a sign that the judiciary is holding its ground, even under immense political pressure. That's not something to take for granted. In a region where many courts have crumbled under the weight of executive overreach, South Africa's judiciary has, so far, remained relatively intact. But the risk is growing. Every time a high-profile figure like Zuma frames the courts as corrupt or biased, it chips away at public trust. And that, over time, can do more damage than any single court ruling. Back to Senzo Mchunu, he's just the backdrop in this drama. A respected minister, a seasoned ANC player, caught in the crossfire between two political giants. The fact that his leave was used as the centerpiece of a legal case shows just how deep this political war has gone. Nothing is too small, nothing is off limits. Everything is fair game when it comes to Zuma versus Ramaphosa. And let's not kid ourselves, this isn't the last battle. Zuma still faces other legal challenges, including the ongoing arms deal case and the private prosecution bid against Ramaphosa himself. His supporters are preparing for more court appearances, more marches, more press conferences. For them, it's not about justice, it's about visibility. Staying relevant. Keeping the narrative alive that Zuma is the victim of betrayal, and that Ramaphosa is the puppet of forces that want to erase the legacy of radical economic transformation. But the courts have spoken, again. This case, like many before it, has failed. And Ramaphosa lives to fight another day, emboldened by the legal system, but still surrounded by enemies both within and outside his party. For Zuma, it's back to the drawing board. But don't count him out. If history has taught us anything, it's that Jacob Zuma does not know the meaning of political retirement. He thrives on chaos, and for better or worse, he is still very much a player in this game. So stay tuned. The war is far from over. And in South African politics, even the smallest battles can have massive consequences. If you found this video informative, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, do you think Zuma's legal fights are helping or hurting the country? Is Ramaphosa handling it the right way? Let's talk about it.